Ooh. Hello, folks. So, Robert Salas has been on Jesse Michels. It has just been released less than an hour ago, and there's a chapter of it I want to talk about. There are 5 most famous UFO incidents revolving around UFOs and nuclear weapons. Number 1 being the Malmstrom incident, and that's the one we're going to be discussing today. The other ones are Rendlesham Forest, the Mino AFB UFO incident, that's 1968, the Soviet missile base, 1982, and Los Alamos and Hansford site in 1940s to 50s. Those are the other ones. We will cover them another time. But this one, the Malmstrom AFB incident, Robert Salas is going to give us his account here, and it is going to be on the Jesse Michels channel, and it will be linked in the description. So let's play the clip from this right now for people.
And the theories as to why people are trying to sabotage it.
So in 1967, I was assigned to a 2-man crew. My commander was Fred Mywald. We were both lieutenants at the time. And we were assigned to Oscar Flight, which is near Lewistown, Montana. No, I take that back. It's near Roy, Montana, which is about 100 miles to the east of Great Falls, and Malmstrom Air Force Base, located near Great Falls. So at this site, we go underground to a what we call the Launch Control Center, and that's where we have all the equipment down there to monitor and launch missiles if necessary. So on this particular evening, March 24th, 1967, my commander was taking a rest break. We had a little cot down there, and I was in charge of the entire facility. I get a call sometime in the evening. I don't know when exactly. I was probably close to 9 p.m. or so. It was dark out. And the topside guard, which we call a flight security controller, called down and said, "Sir, I've been seeing some strange lights in the sky overhead, directly over us. They're strange because they're flying very fast, stopping in midair, reversing course, doing 90-degree turns, no engine noise. And sir, these are not airplanes. Airplanes can't do what these lights are doing." So I even said, "You mean like UFOs?" Because we had actually had newspaper accounts in the Great Falls Tribune of people and like farmers and citizens seeing strange lights in the sky at night that week.
Yeah, wasn't there was a truck driver and a police officer, if I'm not mistaken, who would also
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay.
That's an important part of this. We can talk about it now if you want. On the same night, and this I think was about 7:30 to 8 in the evening, a truck driver was driving through the town of Belton, Montana, which was about 35 miles to the southeast of Great Falls. And he looks over out his window and sees a bright light that's pacing him, going the same speed, and it's actually blinking at him. And he finds it a little strange. It was just a big white ball of light to him. He stops the truck and gets out and watches the light land in a ravine, a large ravine. He goes over there and takes a look, sees it, and then he calls the highway patrol. He wants to get somebody else to look at this thing. And the highway patrolman comes out. He also sees the light. The light comes back up, flies off at high speed, and then comes back while the highway patrolman was there. They then call the county sheriffs. They come out. They see, they inspect a little bit of the area where this object landed. They find some broken branches. They all decide to call the Air Force Base. We happened to have what was called a UFO officer at the base at the time because of the Condon investigation. Wanted the Air Force to identify certain officers at certain bases to help them with their investigation. And so they identified this particular guy, a man by the name of Lieutenant Colonel Lewis Chase, who was also the base operations officer. So Chase comes out. I don't know if he saw the object or not, but at that time, but he decides that they can't bring a helicopter in that night because they're not trained for night operations in that area, and so he wants to wait till the morning. And in the meantime, there are reports at Malmstrom Air Force Base. Objects are seen on radar. Objects are seen by airmen at the base. Again, bright white light flying around Malmstrom Air Force Base. And so Chase decides he needs to report all this. And he does in a telegram to Air Force headquarters, and also reports to Edward Condon. Writes a couple of reports. I've got copies of them. And they take the statement of the truck driver, etc. And by the way, in the meantime, my missiles are shut down.
So you have missile security officers.
And there it is. So while all this is happening, nuclear weapons, you ain't using them, pal. We've just shut them down. Could you imagine how scary that is? This is what your country relies on as a deterrent to stop other lunatics in other countries doing anything stupid to your country. Because you can just say, well, we've got nuclear weapons. You come at us, we're going to go. And if something has just shut your nuclear weapons down, there would have been a turtle head in my pants at that moment. Because if they can shut them down, then they can most certainly turn them on, set them off as well. So yeah, we're going to just play a little bit more of this. Let's carry on a sec.
They're calling down and they're saying they're seeing.
No security officers. These are airmen, the non-commissioned officers, NCOs.
Okay.
And they're responsible for the security of the launch control facility. In other words, and that's what I told him. So after the first call, we just hung up because there was no point in talking about lights in the sky. I didn't think.
So you were like, what are you talking about? And you hung up and you were like,
basically, yeah, I wasn't too interested in what he had to say after that because, he could have been seeing little stars up there. I don't know. But then 5 minutes later, he calls back, and this time he's frightened. He's really frightened. He's screaming into the phone. He's babbling. I got to calm him down. And finally, I calm him down. He says, "Sir, we got all the guards out. They've got their weapons pointed at this red-orange light, pulsating light. It's huge. It's, I think he said 40 or some feet long. It was hard to see inside. I said, try to look inside the light and see if there's a solid object in there." He said, it's really difficult because it's so bright, but it looks like there's some kind of a solid object in there, oval shaped, is what he said. And I said, and then he said, "What do I do, sir?" I basically told him, I don't remember the exact words, but I basically told him to make sure the facility is secure, that nobody enters the fenced area. Basically it's your responsibility, right? And so he hung up. He first said a guard got injured and I got to go. The injury I'll talk about later, but it had nothing to do with the UFO. So he hung up. First thing I did is I looked over at our board, our status board that showed the status of each missile, right? And yeah, all the missiles were green at that time, ready to go, ready to launch at any time. I went over to talk to my commander, Fred Milo, was taking a rest break. Woke him up and started to tell him about the phone calls. And because now I'm thinking there's something serious going on up there. The guy was really scared, really frightened. And before I could tell him about the phone calls, we'd get a big horn go off. One of the missiles went off alert status, or went from green to red. No go. Can't launch it.
Had that ever happened in your career thus far?
I was there for 3 years. One of them may have gone down for some power problem. We had triple power redundancy, but anyway, but nothing like multiple shutdowns. And right after that one went down, all of them went down, one at a time.
As you know, I'm always on.
That is scary, right? You're just there looking, talking to your commander or something. You look to your left, and it's like green, red, green, red, green, red, green, red. It's like, holy shit, we are losing the ability to fire our nuclear weapons, sir. And he's saying, control the perimeters, make sure no one's in there. Somebody's already in there. Like, not in there, but they've got the technology to be able to go into wherever they want and disable your nuclear weapons, your biggest deterrent, the biggest deterrent on this planet that countries use. The United Kingdom use it, the US use it, a lot of the big countries around the world use this. Now, there's another part that I want to speak about, and it's one that actually shocked Jesse Michels because he didn't know much about it either. And it's about Gordon Cooper and something Werner von Braun told him. So check this out.
The craft, etc. And that craft may, it's reasonable to see where that craft was taken to Germany, to Nazi Germany, where studies were done with that craft. In fact, Werner von Braun, who we know was later taken under, taken back to the U.S. after World War II under Operation Paperclip, right? And he worked on the Apollo program. He knew a lot of the astronauts. He used to have astronauts over to his house on weekends for barbecues. And in fact, Gordon
Cooper?
Gordon Cooper wrote a book. And in that book, he talks about von Braun telling him that they actually worked on UFO craft in Germany, in Nazi Germany.
Wow.
And actually had a flying model.
That is fascinating. I didn't know that Gordon Cooper wrote that. That's really...
I didn't know Gordon Cooper was told that either. I know I've done many videos on my TikTok about the German UFOs from the 1920s to the early 40s. And one of the reasons I believe World War II happened was for the race for that technology. And the evidence in that is probably Operation Paperclip, where they took all these Nazi engineers, scientists, and technicians over to the United States, kept it sort of hush-hush, got them into all these programs, and the technology went exponential in the United States. There's no doubt in my mind that the Germans were working on things well before World War II finished. So let's just carry on a second, see if there's any more gets said here.
amazing.
Absolutely. And
wow, I got to check that out. That's wild.
yeah, you get a hold of his book. I forgot the name of the book, but he did write it in there. So chances are, yeah, the back engineering of UFOs goes way back.
That is fascinating. Gordon Cooper is no scrub. He spent more time in orbit than anybody before him as an astronaut as part of the Mercury missions.
Right.
These were before the Apollo missions. That's amazing. I didn't know that. I got to research. That's fascinating.
Look into it.
I will. Yeah, because Werner von Braun pops up in these stories. Edgar Mitchell says that he, comes to him and says, he has knowledge of this stuff. And apparently he was involved in Edgar Mitchell actually doing these sort of remote viewing parapsychology experiments, in space and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there's tangential there, all these anecdotes, but that's maybe the most interesting anecdote of them all, that he said he was directly involved in reverse engineering craft.
Right.
Fascinating.
In fact, other of the paperclip scientists from Nazi Germany confirmed this. And again, during these weekend meetings with some of the astronauts.
Well, Werner von Braun's mentor is a guy named Hermann Oberth. And Hermann Oberth is on video speculating about UFOs. He says, the existence of UFOs should make anybody question reality. And then he talks about, time manipulation involved in UFO travel. And he was openly very interested in this stuff. So, and then he actually, as part of Paperclip, comes to the U.S. to work as part of Convair Bell as well. So, yeah.
Right, guys. So that was, what the hell is that on my? Is that the clip? Sorry, a bit curtain there. So that is a little bit of the Malmstrom incident and the German UFOs. Potentially, they were reversing this technology well before Operation Paperclip began, which I've speculated many, many times for many, many years that the Germans, this did not originate in the United States. That's going to shock a few people because everybody says, how come it only happens in the United States? Well, it didn't. It primarily does now because they have the technology, and a lot of the stuff isn't aliens. It's very smart individuals that have reverse engineered something, and a lot of it is our technology now. Now, the origins of it is most likely some alien tech, and that's the stuff we want to know. We want to know, are we alone in the universe? I don't think we are. So you want to watch the full interview. It's on Jesse Michels. It will be linked in the description. Please like, share, and subscribe. That would be great. I'm almost at 5,000 followers on my YouTube. If you would like me to do a deep dive into the German UFO stuff, and I can go through the Bibliotecapades thingy, the link for that. I like the link for that one to go through the German stuff and how they were connected to the Aryan beings and stuff like that. And this is the ideology of the Aryan race, potentially, of where they got that idea from, and the master race, and trying to create the superior being. Please drop a comment and just put German go, go, go. And I'll know what you mean, and I'll do a video deep dive on that for you. I like to do shortish videos between 10 20 minutes long just to get people interested and for them to do their own research on it. I don't like to be one of them that drags things out too much. But I will do if you want me to, or we could do a live on it. So, as always, good night, God bless, see you on the next one.